and also shared on facebook.com/livenowdt, and shared on our Winning Fantasy Football group that you can get on Facebook for free. And of course, we are proud to be here on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt as well, inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour. Not a fantasy football, not one of, but the Fantasy Football Power Hour that you need to be paying attention to. This week, myself and Mike Sofka will be taking a look around the NFL at the running back situations, the backfields of the NFL. We'll start in the AFC and make our rounds here for a little bit this morning, and we're so happy to have you here. So let's bring in the man of the hour and the man of every Wednesday between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's Mr. Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com and our joint venture of Winning Fantasy Football, the group on Facebook. Mr. Sofka, how are we doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing very well, man. So what's going on? Fill me in. How's life down in Florida? How are you? How's your health? How's everything with Mr. Sofka? We got to make sure we're taking care of the other half of the Fantasy Football Power Hour.
Well, it's like always. I mean, living a dream. You know, everyone wants to live in a vacation paradise until they live in one. You know, you think it's beach and Disney every other day, and it's not like that. But I've got no complaints. Weather here, it's been Chamber of Commerce style weather. Spring is here. It feels like almost summer at times. Everything's turning really green. If it wasn't blue, it's a tremendous fortunate situation I'm in to live in Florida. I'm very happy. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, and happy to have you down in the great state of Florida. We talked about something yesterday, and I know we're going to talk about running backs today, but I want to just get your thought here. We'll dig into it a little bit deeper in our Fantasy Football Power Hours coming up in the next couple weeks. But Kyle Trask to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a second round is what Tampa spends on him. The Florida Gator gets to stay in Florida from Gainesville to Tampa. He gets to learn from Tom Brady. Do you see a future for him there? Could this be the heir apparent in Tampa?
I don't think you could write a better script for the young man, and I'm definitely rooting for Kyle Trask, and I think this is a tremendous opportunity for him to learn. And you know, there might be a time late in the year here where he might get some play time. Let's say Tampa does take off this year right where they left off as Super Bowl champs. Maybe they run another string of games together. There's an extra week this year in the NFL. Yeah. That means there might be an extra week Kyle Trask to see the field if the division's wrapped, home field's wrapped up, if your playoff spot isn't going to gain just by you subbing out some of these players. So we may see more of that later. And the challenge is to find how your fantasy league is going to score that. So definitely another opportunity to look out for this year. And like I said, I don't think you could have a better situation for Kyle Trask right now.
You know, and you bring up a great segue into why we're talking about the fantasy backfields of the NFL, starting that discussion today. And that is the fact, you know, that there's an extra week in the NFL, and we know that wear and tear on the body for these players in general is something that we have to look to, and very rarely do we see teams anymore run with just one back, and now with an extra week it could be even more imperative to know who the second and third string guys are. Mike, speak to that a little bit. You know, with this extra week being added, just how even more vital it becomes that you know who's on the team and who the personnel are, and that you don't just know the name that everybody knows, but you know the names behind that as well.
Well, yeah, and it's even more, like I said, it's even more important this year more than ever. But, running back is a position where these guys sometimes have a hard time staying on the field. You look at Christian McCaffrey last year. Look at Dalvin Cook year after year. Alvin Kamara's had a scare. Saquon Barkley's been out. Zeke is at times. Aaron Jones has been out at times. Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb. All these guys have been dinged up at one time or another. So if you don't have your act together, like we said, if you're not 2 weeks ahead, you're a week behind. Just this is your opportunity. You're not behind the eight ball at all. You're ahead of the curve. You're in May. Unless you're in a dynasty league, there's not a lot going on right now. It's a little bit each day. Take the with us, or take 15 minutes to yourself every day. Dan, you've been getting exercise and fitness and walking and running many miles to this point, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how many miles are you up to now?
Oh Lord, think it's over 2 million steps and whatever that is in miles. But I mean, to me, you try to do an average of like 5 miles a day.
There you go. You didn't take them all in one day. I mean, a journey of 1,000,000 miles starts with the first step. So taking that first step with us here, and just pay attention. I mean, I if I'm at the house, I got something football related on in the background at all times, even if it's a past game. That's how I am. And if I need to turn the sound down every once in a while, that's fine. But I always have it in my face, so I'm always picking up something, sometimes subliminally. Sometimes it's reinforcing an idea or a position that I've held, or sometimes I'm alerted to a new situation, a contract situation, an injury situation to an offensive line, which will impact the running back and quarterback and receivers on the team. So, if you could just do a little bit each day, you're going to find that come football season, come draft time, come the time when the toe hits the leather, you're going to be the odd man in the group because you're going to be prepared ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, and like you say, if you're not one step ahead, you're 2 steps behind. So we're starting the discussion on the backfields of the NFL today in the Fantasy Football Power Hour, and we're so grateful to you for being gracious with your time and spending some time with us this morning here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You are watching live on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, and being shared here on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, and shared to the Winning Fantasy Football group that we have on Facebook as well. So plenty of ways to watch and listen. Mike, we're going to start in the AFC. We're going to do a round robin type of thing. We'll get to a few teams today, and we'll continue to the discussion as we go. But the backfields of the NFL, to give people, a look at these depth charts and kind of what's going on. So I want to start in the AFC. We're going to start in the north of the AFC. And in doing that, I want to start with the Baltimore Ravens and their depth chart. We know that their leading running back is their quarterback in Lamar Jackson. But what can you say about the backfield, fantasy-wise, of Baltimore? Should people be trusting in J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards? Is it more of Lamar Jackson and stay away from these guys? What do you think about a scenario where we have Dobbins and Edwards and Justice Hill and a couple other guys in a situation where their quarterback is typically the one to take off?
I like J.K. Dobbins. I think he offers a lot of flexibility to the offense. And I think Gus Edwards is a great backup, a great guy that you can plug in with confidence. Your team's not really going to skip a beat. Mark Ingram's been jettisoned. He was getting a little long in the tooth. Great rah-rah guy, great locker room guy, great teammate. But, on the field performance, age just catching up to him, in my opinion. J.K. Dobbins is going to be in that lead back role. So, what I do is I not only take an evaluation of the player from where he was last year. I project what the players are going to possibly do this year. Then I translate that into points in any one league scoring system, but primarily generic PPR scoring. Then I take a look, after I've done my own evaluation, I take a look at other professional evaluators in fantasy football. And I take about 10 to 12 of those guys and I put them together and I come back with a composite of what the talking head, what this player did last year and what I project him to do this year. I'll give you, for instance, J.K. Dobbins. I got him ranked number 17 as far as running backs go this year, whereas I've seen some talking heads have him ranked as high as 9 and some as low as 23. So it really runs the gambit there. I think you brought up a good point. Does Lamar Jackson and his ability to run the ball, does he impede the running back? I don't think so. I think that enhances the running back because now the running back can be a check down as well. Hey, you like that tie-in with your previous show? So I think J.K. Dobbins is an excellent pick for you. I don't think he's the first running back off the board. Like I said, I got him in the mid to high teens.
Yeah, I think J.K. Dobbins brings something to it as well. I think the thing with Gus Edwards is, that was the guy that we saw that Lamar Jackson was comfortable with. But he was comfortable with him almost, he was in a situation where the other guys weren't working out. So somebody had to step forward, and Gus was able to do that. But with J.K. Dobbins and them drafting him, you'd think that they're going to put more on him and put him in a situation where they're going to ask more of him and expect more of him. So I think, J.K. definitely has value. I think the thing for me is knowing that Lamar Jackson is the guy that's, could end up with the majority of yards when push comes to shove. He could look like the running back on paper, and his numbers have been good. His numbers have been good passing. His numbers have been good rushing. So do I think Dobbins could maybe make more hay on another team? Yeah, potentially. But do I think there's anything wrong in drafting him this year? No. I think the thing with Gus Edwards is, we saw that he was used more sparingly. I was hoping he would get some more opportunities, some more time out there. He did not. And so I think looking at the backfield of the Baltimore Ravens, I really think it's J.K. Dobbins right now or bust. I don't see a ton of value in Gus Edwards unless you have to go really, really deep here. And if you have to go deep and put somebody in a flex position, you're in a 16-team, league or whatever that may be, then you may have to reach for a guy like Gus Edwards, and in that case, it's not a bad thing to do. I just don't, see him being someone who's going to dominate and be in your starting lineup from week to week. I don't see him really cracking a lot of great numbers for you, which is unfortunate because he started to seem like he had a good relationship with Lamar, but I think it ultimately comes down to J.K. Dobbins, who I'm okay with people drafting. I just don't necessarily, like you, Mike, I don't see him in a top 10. Next team to look at inside of the AFC North are the Cincinnati Bengals backfield. They have Joe Mixon, who they've had for a while. Samaje Perrin, they have him there as well. They have Chris Evans, not the guy that played Captain America and Human Torch, a different one. And they have Jaquez Patrick, my guy from South Florida, who's trying to make the team, and Travion Williams. Samaje Perrin, the guy that we saw on the Washington football team, he's one of those guys where, he was supposed to be a starter. He was supposed to be the dominant back in Washington. It didn't work out. I really think that this backfield is Joe Mixon or bust. Is Joe Mixon worth the pickup, and what do you think about the situation?
Yeah, I think Joe Mixon is a guy who can be the stalwart guy. He can be that every down back. Last year, he got injured in the 6th game, so he was cut short in Joe Burrow's rookie campaign. I think Joe Burrow's is going to help his run game. I think the fact that they drafted Jamar Chase, a number 1 receiver in his own right, Tyler Boyd, who's a number 1 receiver, and T. Higgins, who might be a number 1 receiver on anybody else's team. So I think this bodes well for Joe Mixon. He's going to be that every down type kind of guy. You brought up Samaje Perine. I agree. And his brother's in the league as well, running back for the Jets. Travion Williams, I was hot on him for a little bit. I thought he would step up a little bit, but he hasn't yet, and that's all right. That's okay. But there's another guy that they brought in this year that could see some playing time that not a lot of people were forecasting to see playing time, and that's Chris Evans out of Michigan. 6th-round pick, went number 18 in the 6th round. This is a guy that can catch the ball. He might turn out to be the new Giovanni Bernard, the poor man's Giovanni Bernard for now. Wait till he gets on the field, though, because if you don't know how to pass block in the NFL, you're not stepping foot on the field, so hopefully that won't slow him down. But when you come from a big school like Michigan, number 1, you have to be smart to go to Michigan. Number 2, you have to be a football player if you're going to play on the Michigan team. So I'm confident that'll transition well. I like Joe Mixon. I'm not going to get overly excited about him. Like I said, right now I've seen him anywhere. And like I said before, I do my own projections, my own rankings. Then I look and see what other people have. And I've seen him ranked as high as the number 6 running back. I've seen him ranked as low as the number 22 running back. I've got him at number 11 on my PPR ranking so far this year.
Yeah, I think Joe Mixon, obviously he's talented. There's some good things that he's been able to put together in his career. He's a guy that I typically will pass on if, there's plenty of other names I'll look to before I look to Joe Mixon is what I'm trying to say. We look at his game log or we look at what he's been able to do, and in 2020, he played in 6 games, had 428 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Not overwhelming. 5 touchdowns in 2019 rushing, 8 in 2018, 4 before that. So, not an overly overwhelming guy. He does, get some touchdowns out of the backfield receiving as well. He had 1 last season receiving, 3 the year before, and 1 in 2018. So, there are some good things that he can do. There are some moments that he has. He's just somebody that I don't necessarily lean on. I never really have. So, that's I mean, to me, Joe Mixon's not a bad number 2. I know that some people, he's your number 1. I don't trust him to. Listen, I know he's talented, but his off-the-field issues, to be completely honest, people that know me, when somebody has some off-the-field issues, that's I mean, and if he's getting better and he's changing them and he's changing for the better and he's doing good things, then that's a different story. And if that's the case with Joe and it continues to be the case, then I'm happy with that. And he continues to give to society in a positive way, then I'm happy with that. But I typically stay away from Joe Mixon because of the off-the-field stuff. And, looking at his talent, I don't think that he's a top 5 guy, but I do think he's a talented guy. And, Mike, you have him right around that top 10, and, I don't necessarily disagree with that. He's not my first pick off the board, but in a deep league, sometimes he has to be, and I think if you get him, there's really no knock to that. The Cleveland Browns, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they figured out a way to do it. Fantasy-wise, by the numbers and in some of the statistics I looked up at the end of the year, both of these guys finished in the top 10 in fantasy for running backs. So this is a situation where it works, and maybe the best situation where it works in the country, where if you have Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt, you're not frustrated that the other guy is taking from the other guy because both of these guys are residing in the top 10 in fantasy numbers. Mike, as we step into this season, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, give me your thoughts on if they can do it again. Can they get better? Can they stay the same? Is one of the guys going to emerge? What do you think about this? I don't want to call it the 1-2 punch. It's almost like a 1-1 punch because both of these guys are in the top 10 statistically.
Yeah, when I look at Cleveland, I look at a pretty good offensive line. I think they beefed up their defense. They got 2 of the top. They're healthy, and Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. They have a quick ride star in the wide receiver position, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. It's been inconsistent, but one thing that's been consistent.
No, I think we lost Mike here for a second. Mike, can you hear us? Okay. You got us, Mike?
Yeah, I can hear you. You were breaking up quite a bit there. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you here. So let me make sure that we got you all set. Okay, so go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah, no worry. Cleveland's got an outstanding offensive line. They got 2 of the top receivers, and Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. when healthy. Donovan Peoples-Jones has made a name for himself coming out of Michigan. I think Baker Mayfield's been inconsistent, but the Browns have been consistent with the run, and that's what you want when you have a running back. And I'm not afraid to have Nick Chubb as a top 10 running back. As a matter of fact, that's where he ends on my rankings. I've seen other talking heads have him as high as 19 and as low as 6. But then you got to consider Kareem Hunt. Now, in my opinion, Kareem Hunt has the talent to be the number 1 on any other team. If you remember, he was the number 1 before he had some off-the-field issues. Afraid to take a chance, pick him up off waivers. So it looks like, that 1-2 punch, you're right there. They have figured out a way to make it work. The one thing I caution you on is over-expectation on Kareem Hunt. I got him ranked at 22. I've seen him ranked as high as 19 and as low as 26. So I think what you're looking at is Chubb getting most of all the carries, all the touches, all the throws. Kareem Hunt giving him a blow, running a series here or there, maybe a goal line situation. But if Nick Chubb does get hurt, you have a solid running back who's capable of putting up those Nick Chubb-type numbers in Kareem Hunt. So I think the Cleveland running back situation is good. I think Nick Chubb can be your number 1 running back.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think Kareem Hunt's kind of like the big-time play. I think Nick Chubb's kind of the guy that they're going to give it to, I mean, we'll see some games where maybe it's, 12 touches to one, 11 to the other, 15 to one, 11 to the other, but I still think Nick Chubb is your dominant back. I think Kareem's more of your home run hitter, right? He might catch that ball out of the backfield on a check down, and, when he gets something like that, go 70 yards and take it to the house. I think the Kareem Hunt big plays are more on on those type of situations. It's more of like he'll grab you 70 yards on one play, where I think, Nick Chubb methodically could get you 80 yards throughout the game or 100 yards in the game. So that's what I see. I see Chubb is a traditional, Kareem Hunt as more as your wild card. If you have them both, then it's great. Maybe they get you 20 to 30 points. But I think Nick Chubb, I agree with you, is the guy that I still would lean on more than I would lean on Kareem Hunt. There's nothing wrong with getting Kareem Hunt. I don't think he's like your dominant, all-purpose, like that's your back. But I think he's a great complement to someone, just like he's a complement to Nick Chubb. I think having them both is a great situation if they're both healthy. And, ultimately, I would lean on Nick Chubb a little bit more, just because I do agree that I think that he's the guy that they're going to be treating as the traditional back, and then they'll be utilizing Kareem Hunt for those home run hits. That opportunity to catch him downfield, that opportunity for him to break away for a big-time play. I think he's more of the big-time play, and, not that Nick Chubb can't, but I think Nick Chubb's more of like the whole game, and Kareem Hunt's more of the big-time play. To take a look at the AFC North final team that we have here, the Pittsburgh Steelers made the decision to move away from James Conner, and then they drafted Najee Harris, 24th overall, right before Travis Etienne Jr. went to the Jaguars. Thoughts on the Steelers? They had Le'Veon Bell, then James Conner had to fill in when Le'Veon Bell was being little crybabies. And now is Najee Harris, as James Conner was just kind of just left out to pasture. They have Benny Snell, they have Anthony McFarland, they have Kalen Ballage, they have Jalen Samuels, they have Trey Edmonds. The thing about Pittsburgh is all these guys could bring some type of talent. I can argue that McFarland, Ballage, Samuels, and Edmonds could all be a flex position player for you, even Benny Snell. So what do you think about the situation in Pittsburgh? And is Najee Harris the dominant guy? I mean, on the depth charts that I'm looking at here, he's the guy. But where does all of this fall? Because, I again can argue that of the 6 running backs on this team, there is talent throughout, and there could be a 1-2 punch of any of these groups. A Harris and Snell, a Harris and McFarland, a Ballage and Snell, a Samuels and Snell, a Samuels and Harris. There's a lot of different scenarios I could see happening here.
Yeah, I can see that from a distance. I see that, but when you look closer at this situation here, they let James Conner go too easily. They let him they were holding the door for him. So that sniffs something to me like maybe they felt James Conner was done in a sense. And for what they could bring him back for, they'd be better off trying to stick to their guns. And Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland, they brought in Kalen Ballage. They have a great fullback in Derek Watt. They just brought in tight end Pat Freiermuth from Penn State. He's going to be on the other side of Eric Ebron. They're going to finally get that 2 tight end thing going. I don't know why they need to. You look at the receivers, it's sick. Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, who topped the adjusted explosiveness index last year. Deontay Johnson, they seem to always hit on these receivers, and I think they hit on the running back in the first round with the 24th pick and Najee Harris. Out of Alabama, if you draft a running back in the first round, that guy's getting the ball. And to let you know how much I think he's going to get the ball over everyone else on this list, he's ranked number 16 on my rankings for running backs this year, PPR. The talking heads have had him as high as 20 and as low as 12. I don't have another running back from Pittsburgh ranked in my top 86 spots. So if that tells you anything, Najee Harris is going to be the guy outside of injury. He's going to be the every down guy. He's going to be the steady Eddie guy. It's Najee Harris on the Steelers.
Yeah, and I can see, Najee Harris, and you do have him very high, and that's interesting to see that. I'm really looking at, they draft McFarland, they draft Snell, they draft Samuels, they draft Edmonds. What are they going to do with all this? This is all drafted real estate. And Kalen Ballage, I would be surprised if he makes the team if they stick with the drafted real estate that they have. So, if Najee Harris really is the guy, my question to the Steelers is, what do you do with everything else? And did you really use Jalen Samuels to the best that you could, or Benny Snell? Do you got too many guys that do the same thing? Do you have too many guys that are more of the finesse guys and the checkdowns or the H-back and this? So, I mean, Najee, bringing him onto the team, I definitely don't think it's a bad play at all for you to pick him up as your running back. I wouldn't call him, because he's a rookie, I'm not going to outright call him a number one. I'd call him like a number two to your 1-2 punch. But I'm very interested to see what Pittsburgh's going to do. And it makes me very concerned as we get deeper in the draft, do I go for any of these guys? Because if Najee's coming in and he's a 24th pick and James Conner, the starter's gone, my question is, if it's Najee or bust, what do you do with the rest of them? And do the rest of them make any sense? And I think they're talented. I think these guys could make other teams. So will some of these gentlemen be on other teams when all is said and done, when push comes to shove? We'll find out as we go forward. Speaking of going forward, Mike and I will take a step aside. When we come back, we'll do another division before we wrap up for the day. We will head to the AFC East. That is the AFC East. We'll be talking about the Patriots, the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Bills running back situations as we take a look around the NFL to get you ready for fantasy football based on the backfields. That's all coming up right here where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and we appreciate you being here.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, where you're listening live all throughout the world, as well as on facebook.com/live-now-dt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. So many places to tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora live every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And we, of course, appreciate you being here, hanging out with us. You can also check out the archive after the shows go live. You can find us on Stitcher, Spotify, MixLR, YouTube, iTunes and Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Podbean, and iHeartRadio simply by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So with that being said, from inside the Cafe Kubal studios, we are inside the Fantasy Football Power Hour with my guy Mike Sofka, and happy to have Mike here, as always, every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You'll hear us doing our thing here with the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, the place to watch all of your games and to spend your summer. They have a fantastic full bar and restaurant. They have a party room as well as outdoor volleyball and outdoor dining. It's an awesome place to go, and they find a way to bond all the great stuff that I love about sports bars, restaurants, and local businesses. So a big shout out to Danny Tome. We'll be out there today, actually. Today, Wednesday, May 19th at 7 p.m. We'll be out there with the West Genesee Wildcats wrestling team, supporting all of them, and we'll have them on stage with us. So come out to support the Wildcats, come out to support the wrestling team, come out to support local business at the Wildcat Sports Pub, grab some dinner, enjoy the show, and of course you can watch us on Facebook Live as well when we go and do that tonight, Wednesday, May 19th at 7 p.m. So we look forward to seeing you out there and can't wait to do it. With that being stated, inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, I'm honored and privileged to have Mr. Sofka here with me as we get set for the AFC East. Taking a look at the backfields around the NFL, the next one that we have on the docket is the AFC East to look at today before we wrap things up. And the first team to look at there are the Buffalo Bills. They have Devin Singletary, Zach Moss. They brought in Matt Breida, who looked like he could have been the potential maybe guy or 1-2 punch guy in San Fran. They still have Antonio Williams and some other guys here as well. Mike, your thoughts on Devin Singletary and Zach Moss? Can they get it done together? What's your overall take?
Yeah, they're going to have to get it done together, and that's not going to bode well for you, the fantasy football owner. They're going to cannibalize each other. This is not a good situation if you have either one of these guys in any format right now, outside of knowing through a crystal ball or some dark magic which one of them is going to get hurt. I look for Devin Singletary to be more of the scat guy, more of the guy that's catching passes, more of the guy that's going to initially get the rock to start with. I think Zach Moss is going to take over the first and second down rules and be the guy who is the goal line guy, or the red zone guy could be Devin Singletary if they're a 2-minute offense. So it's just a matter of usage. They're so close together. They're ranked number 37 and 38 on my running back rankings. Matt Bright is not going to be in the picture at all. I don't think that you can count on either one of these guys to be your number one running back, to be your workhorse. Either one of them are going to be your RB3. Now, these guys are going to get drafted in your league higher than they should. Don't let that alarm you. A lot of times people go, well, Mike, you said this guy should be drafted around 38, but he went 21, and I see him going into 20s and all. Yes. You know why? Because those people are wrong. That's why I do what I do. So you can follow the herd, you can go with everyone else off the cliff, or you can come on over here and hang out in green pastures. I'm going to stay in the green pastures. I'm going to stay away from both of these guys if I can. I've seen these guys ranked as high as in the high 40s, like 48, 46. I've seen these guys ranked from other prognosticators as low as the 20s, but the high 20s, 26, 29. So with that in mind, I'm not looking at either one of these guys, Moss or Singletary.
Yeah, and I think that, that's the thing as we look at this with these two gentlemen, it is something that becomes a cannibalization, and it's something that I had to deal with. I picked up Zach Moss as like a fourth running back last year, so obviously he wasn't my first three. He was part of my depth, but he didn't give me any depth. He didn't really help me out at all. Now, he dealt with injury, and God willing, he won't have to deal with that again, nor will anybody, including Singletary. I pray for everybody to stay healthy in all walks of life and stay well. In the case of Singletary and Moss, like you said, they're going to cannibalize each other. You're going to need them both. Some days they're not going to get it done. Some days they will get it done. But when you need two guys to look like one guy, that's when it's not good enough. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are their own player, and they function together. That's very different than Singletary and Moss needing each other to function as one. So if you have one of them, you have half of a running back. If you have them both, well, then sometimes it's good, but it's also frustrating because you're giving up two spots in your starting lineup to what you hope is one statistic line. And you don't want to have to hire two people to do one job. So that's what it is in this situation. It's two people for one job, and I don't think it's going to help you out. Yeah, can Singletary do some good things? Sure. Will Zach Moss have a few good games here and there, maybe 2 to 3 or whatever? Yeah. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I want to hire one running back to do their job. I don't want to hire two to try and find one way to do that job. So I'm not a fan of the backfield. I think Buffalo in reality has got a lot of talent. I think Buffalo in reality has a lot of potential success coming their way. I think there's a lot of good that's going to come in Buffalo, and they don't care how it's going to look statistically in fantasy. But in fantasy world where you have to care as the fantasy owner, the Bills might be winning, but you may be losing. And that's something you have to pay attention to. Mike, you and I talked about Myles Gaskin when he got drafted back in 2019. He was drafted in the 7th round, 234th overall. He was almost Mr. Irrelevant. Yet you and I both thought that he could find his way to being the starter. And technically, as of right now in Miami, he still is. With Malcolm Brown brought in from the three-headed backfield with the Rams, Malcolm Brown is now there. Salvin Ahmed, who had done some things when he had to fill in. Malcolm Perry, who's a former quarterback at Navy. All these guys are on the list. Patrick Laird and Jordan Scarlett and so on and so forth. Jared Dokes. But ultimately, you and I thought that Myles Gaskin could get here. So what do you think about Myles Gaskin and Malcolm Brown moving forward in Miami?
I think it's a tremendous vote of confidence from the organization not to draft a top running back. Some prognosticators had them going running back in their early rounds. What did they do? They put Jalen Waddle, probably the best receiver Alabama had. I know Devonta Smith won the Heisman Trophy, but Jared Waddle, he was hurt. He wasn't even on the field. So Jalen Waddle was the wide receiver above the Heisman Trophy winner. So let that rest in your head for a minute. Try to figure that one out. They also have Devontae Parker, Will Fuller. They also have Mike Gesicki. Why do I bring these up? Because Tua needs those outlets. He wants those guys to throw. The organization has done a great thing by bringing people to fit around him. God bless Will Fuller. Hope we can stay healthy. But we talked about Myles Gaskin in the past, and we saw something in him, and sure enough, the Dolphins see the same thing. They did bring in Malcolm Brown. That'll be the short yardage guy, the goal line guy. But watch out for Jared Dokes, their new draftee, drafted in the 7th round. I know, out of Cincinnati. Looks like a tree trunk, but he can catch the ball out of the backfield. I think Miami has done a stellar job of beefing up their defense as of late. I think they've done an excellent job of putting some pieces around Tua. Now, what does that mean for your running back wise? This is a guy that's going to fall under the radar for a lot of people in Myles Gaskin. The other pros have him ranked as high as 18 and as low as 28. You're probably going to be able to sneak this guy as your second running back very late in the drafts. That in mind, there's probably 25 or so other guys that should be taken before him. And again, if somebody stretches, maybe they're a Dolphin fan, God bless them. Because when people get drafted above my rankings, I got news for you. That means there's somebody else in my rankings that I ranked higher that's now available. So I'm not afraid of my rankings. I'm not afraid of, he went somewhere else. If you're that diehard for the guy, go ahead and take him. But don't follow my advice. Follow your own advice then. But don't come back to me and go, now we got this problem, fix it. I'm giving you the answer before the draft. Myles Gaskin is a guy you can count on, and you can sneak him late in the draft.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people are going to say, who's the running back in Miami? That's what I'm going to hear on draft day. Who's the guy in Miami? Dan, who's the starter? Who's the guy that you think's going to take the majority of the carries? It's Myles Gaskin. And he's on my list because he's a starter, he's a 7th rounder, and they believe in him. This man will be left off of some boards. This man will be forgotten. This man will be and we give you the opportunity to see what this guy's all about. And Myles Gaskin has done, are his numbers incredible? No, but they have that vote of confidence. They believe in him. They believe that he can do it, and they believe he can get it done. And, the few touchdowns that he has had in his career, we look at in 2020, he started 7 games. He played in 10 of them. He had 3 rushing touchdowns and almost 600 yards on the ground. He had 2 receiving touchdowns and had almost 400 yards. So looking at it all, he had just shy of 1,000 yards all-purpose, which is huge to look at this guy. This 7th round pick in 7 games started, 10 games played, was almost 1,000-yard all-purpose back with multiple touchdowns, catching them and running them into the end zone. Listen, don't forget about this guy on draft day. It's important for you to remember him and know his value because you need to be ahead of the game. As Mike says it always, if you're not 1 step ahead, you're 2 steps behind or 10 steps behind. Mike, the team that I think might be behind here are the New England Patriots. Now, they spent a lot of money. Bill Belichick is like the angry ex-girlfriend of Tom Brady, and she wants to show Tom that her new boyfriend is sexier. Went out and got Mac Jones, went out and got Jonnu Smith, went out and got Hunter Henry, but their backfield is Damian Harris, who was and their backfield is Sony Michel, who they spent a first-round draft pick on a few years ago, and he hasn't panned out. They didn't pick up the 5th-year option on him, which is basically telling him he's dead in the water unless he does something incredible this year. They draft Ramondre Stevenson. They have James White, who's your, check down guy for Tom Brady, but Tom Brady's not there. Is there value in New England, and where does it lie? And is your gut telling you Stevenson, or is it somebody that isn't the rookie?
Well, it definitely is an interesting situation. The most interesting situation is at quarterback. You wonder if Cam's going to be able to call his own number. Well, it's kind of hard to call your own number if you're not on the field. I think at some point this year, probably due to injury, we're going to see some Mac Jones. And that's going to bode well for the running backs because you're going to look for a more controlled situation out of the offense. Bill Belichick's not going to put too much on a quarterback. He's going to put something on Cam Newton early in the year, and that could be to their detriment as a team because, well, frankly, Cam hasn't been playing good the past couple of years. It just is what it is. I know when everybody thinks of certain names, they think of their highest, the most glorious achievements and their best times. You got to look at reality. You got to look at where you are now compared to the others around that guy. So, again, I'm not totally dressing down Cam Newton, but this is going to affect the running back situation. To that extent, I think Damian Harris is the running back you want to take out of the group. If you're going to take one, that's the guy to take. And the reason why I say that is he's outstanding talent, and I think he's going to see more on the field. You see more on the field from James White, though, in passing situations. In a PPR league, he tends to be the guy from New England. But I want to make sure your expectations are tempered. I don't see either one of these guys being above a running back 3 on my team. I've got Damian Harris going from the other prognosticators as high as 40 and as low as 23. And I've got James White. Let me pull him up here. Here he is. He's as high as, get this, 36 and as low as 56. Now, there is an opportunity late in the year for Ramondre Stevenson. As long as he gets some pass blocking down to take the field, he can catch the ball as well. The challenge is him finding himself on the field. Oh, yeah, we got Sony Michel as well, who's almost an afterthought, was one of the top players on Georgia in years past, and he's in the 50s as well on my list. So, it's a thing we always say about Belichick. Your running back can score 4 touchdowns one week, get 100 yards, and the next week he's frying chicken at Church's because, well, he's not on a team. Or last week he was the bag boy over at the Publix, and now he's a starting running back. You never know with Belichick. So I tend to stay away from New England running backs because of that reason. But that's the reason I have these rankings. At a certain point, mathematically, it's going to make sense for you to take one of them. And that one guy is probably going to be Damian Harris.
Yeah, when we look at the numbers last year on these gentlemen, Damian Harris, he had as many attempts as Cam Newton, 137. Cam had 12 rushing touchdowns. Damian Harris had 2. Cam calling Cam's number, that happened in Carolina, happened also in New England, even though it maybe felt a lot different. Statistically, it didn't look a lot different. 137 attempts from Newton, 137 attempts for Harris. But here's the difference. Cam Newton had 137 attempts in 15 games. Damian Harris had the same amount in 10 games. So he is the dominant back. He had the most yards on the team above Cam Newton and everybody else at just shy of 700. And like I said, 2 touchdowns he had. Sony Michel carried the ball 79 times. Had 449 yards, but he did average 5.7 yards per carry, which still makes him have some relevancy. James White, where his value comes in a PPR league, like Mike said, is that points per reception. He had the third most receptions on the team. Jacoby Myers had 59. Demir Bird had 47, or pardon me, he had the second most, because Demir Bird had 47. So Jacoby Myers, the traditional wide receiver, had 59. James White, the running back, had 49. James White was the second highest receiving player on the team at the running back position, with only one receiver ahead of him. So PPR-wise, as long as James White's in the NFL, he's something to look at in that case if you have a PPR or a hybrid type league. Damian Harris, I agree with you. He gets the majority of the touches, but Ramondre Stevenson, he's an interesting thing. He could be just kind of a name that you write down, and like on draft day, it's a name that you write down, you put in your pocket, you fold it up, and in week 10 you open it up and say, oh, here we go, or week 7, or week 9, and you see that Ramondre Stevenson's getting maybe some more time. Maybe Sony Michel's falling down the list. Maybe Damian Harris isn't doing what he has to do. Maybe somebody got injured. But, the most value statistically over time is with James White, and, the traditional running back is Damian Harris, but I still think we could see a bunch of guys get involved, as we always do, like Mike said. 1 week Sony Michel's got you 4 touchdowns. The next week you don't even see him on the roster. You don't even know if he's playing. So, that's what Bill Belichick does. He doesn't care about your fantasy team, and that's just reality. So, you got to take that into consideration. The Jets, Mike, did some interesting things here. They didn't take a running back where I thought they could take Travis Etienne Jr., and they didn't, and they traded up and instead took Elijah Vera Tucker before the Colts could do it like you and I thought they were going to do, is take that offensive lineman. They instead have relied on Tevin Coleman coming in, who came from Atlanta as a backup, then tried to be a 1-2 punch in San Fran with his former offensive coordinator turned head coach Kyle Shanahan. Now he's with the Jets. Ty Johnson, who showed up out of nowhere, he's still on the team. And we look at Michael Carter, who I covered with the Carolina Tar Heels, and with him, watching him in North Carolina, what he can do, and knowing that he was trained when nobody knew his name relatively. He wasn't a household name when my guy DeAndre Smith was the running backs coach of North Carolina, and he was training Michael Carter. So, and also, just so people know, Darwin Thompson of Utah State was trained by my guy DeAndre Smith, and he went on and had over 1,000 yards in a season and is a Super Bowl champion with the Chiefs, even though he's not their dominant number one back. Well, Michael Carter's on the team now, Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson. I think it's an open competition. Is there value on draft day for the Jets, or do you wait till later on in the draft? Do you wait for free agency with the Jets? What do you do on draft day when it comes to the Jets' backfield?
There aren't too many muddled, mired messes like there is in New England. This is one of them. The Jets. Yeah. Stay away from all the Jets running backs. Act like it's a grenade, and no matter how close or far away you are, there's still a possibility of shrapnel getting on you. Run! Run the other way! I'm telling you, La'Mical Perine out of Florida, love him to death, but he's not an every down back in the NFL. He's going to be the feature number one back, if you would, to start. But then you got the other running backs there. Tevin Coleman, he's proven he could be a number 2, as in Atlanta. He ships San Fran, gets hurt. You never see or hear from the guy again. Then they spend a fourth rounder on Michael Carter, the second best running back from the University of North Carolina Tar Heels. He's a complimentary back at best. He's not an every down back. And what you're going to end up with is a mired, mucky mess. If you take light brown sand, and you take dark brown sand, and you take medium brown sand, and you mix them all together, it's still brown sand. It's all the same. Doesn't matter which guy you take here. All these guys are ranked in the 40s on my ranking. I'm not looking to draft any one of these guys. If one of these guys fell into my lap as a flex, I might stand up and brush it off because I'll be afraid it got on me. Don't look to any Jets running backs this year. La'Mical Perine, Tevin Coleman, Michael Carter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting what you said. If you look at all different all different shades of sand, it's still the same sand at the end of the day. I couldn't say it better myself. I look at this and say, what's the difference? somebody's going to have to show up at some point, maybe, but what's the difference? The Jets have not addressed their wide receivers in years. They haven't addressed their running backs in years. And now they brought in Corey Davis. They have Denzel Mims. They have Elijah Moore that they drafted. They have Keelan Cole. There's definitely something that can happen here. Mind you, they have about 5,000 receivers on their roster going into training camp. They have Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, Jamison Crowder, Elijah Moore, Keelan Cole, Braxton Berrios, Vincent Smith, Jeff Smith, Lawrence Kager, Josh Malone, DJ Montgomery, Manasseh Bailey, and Matt Cole. So, this is a long list, and I think Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Keelan Cole, Jamison Crowder, Denzel Mims, they'll make it. But, again, this is yet another quarterback in Zach Wilson coming onto a team where who's the dominant back? They don't have one. Who's the dominant receiver? They don't have one. Who's the dominant tight end? They don't have one. So yet another quarterback, like with Mark Sanchez and like with Sam Darnold, who doesn't have the weapons to be successful yet. And could some of these guys step up? Yes. Could some of these rookies make their hay? Yes. If I'm Michael Carter and I'm Elijah Moore, I'm feeling fantastic being on this team, because I have the opportunity to start right away because of the makeup of this team. But if I'm drafting and I'm looking at drafting a running back, I am staying away from the Jets like the plague. I am not touching it with any, not a 10-foot pole. I'm not touching it with a 1-foot pole, with a 20-foot pole, with a 30-foot pole. I'm not going near the Jets. As far as I'm concerned, the Jets don't have a backfield. That's how I look at it at this point. Now, could things change? Absolutely. But on draft day, if you're drafting Jets, my best to you. I won't see you in the winner's circle. With that being said, from Mike Sofka inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. You can go there 7 days a week to dine in, and you can, of course, go there for takeout and delivery by calling 315-487-2222. That's 315-487-2222. Mike, as always, for Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com, where everybody should go and utilize your services, especially your cheat sheets and everything else you offer. And thank you for what you did last year for us, and for Winning Fantasy Football, the group on Facebook, which allows you to see all these videos in the archive, as well as never miss a moment of anything. And when Mike and I have different fantasy news, we can post it. Stories, we can post it. Ideas, we can post it. Rankings, we can post it. It's a free and easy way to connect with us at all times. It's where WakeUpCallDT.com and Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com find their way together to join for Winning Fantasy Football, the Facebook group that you need to find on Facebook simply by searching Winning Fantasy Football. So make sure you do that today. Join us today. And Mike, as always, I appreciate you for joining us today as well.
Well, thank you, Dan. And a reminder that the site is updated with rankings for the 2021 season. If you want personalized, updated rankings to the minute, you can always reach out to me through the site as well. Happy to help. And don't forget the Adjusted Explosiveness Index, my grading for wide receivers, which is pretty on point. It's a pretty impressive list when we talk about guys of years past. So, yeah, please visit me, HallOfFameFantasyFootball.com. Dan, again, thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely, man. I look forward to talking with you soon.
All right, bye.
Take care. That coming from Mr. Mike Sofka here, where sports meets that thing called life. Appreciate him as always. So I want to let you all know really quick here as we get set with a wake-up call with Dan Tortora for the day. Want to let you all know that you can, of course, find us here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, now on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, as well as on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT, WakeUpCallDT.com, and on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. All of that live Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. You can also find us on Stitcher, Spotify, MixLR, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and Podbean by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So make sure that you do that and find us there. And we appreciate you so much for everybody that goes back and listens to our archive. And if you ever miss a show, you'll catch them all there which is a great opportunity to do it. We got more than Pokemon is how I look at it. So definitely check us out there on all of our outlets. And of course, a special thanks to the beautiful local companies and corporate companies that are so local in our community that I see them as local companies. The Honda Cities, the Carvel DeWitts, the Chick-fil-A Ciceros, what they do for our community has been so tremendous and beautiful, and they are run by these amazing people that grew up in our community or have come back to our community and have an affinity and a connection to our community. So our Central and Upstate New York partners are tremendous. They are awesome, and it is imperative that you support them today and every day. A cup of coffee, going to look at a car, grabbing a slice of pizza, driving out to get a sandwich, dropping your dog off for the day, getting some kettle corn for mom and dad, getting some ice cream. All of this means something, and a special thanks to all of you that have gone out and put your money where your mouth is and supported Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Avicoli's, Honda City of Liverpool, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Pizza Man, Millhouse Market, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, and Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. Use that promo code anywhere in the nation. monpaspopcorn.com will deliver to you, and if you use my promo code, you get 20% off. Go to maandpaspopcorn.com and use the promo code DT20. That's DT20. Go to maandpaspopcorn.com right now and use the promo code DT20 and get 20% off. If you live in the community right here and you do an in-store pickup, if you order online and use in-store pickup, you can still get the 20% off, but you have to order online. maandpaspopcorn.com for in-store pickup or delivery to any one of the 50 states. Use the promo code DT20. That's DT20 at checkout and get 20% off on me from Ma and Pa's. With all of that being said, I hope you have a tremendous day. So happy to be here with you now on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT and our real home of our Facebook page. So we love being here with you on Facebook, YouTube, as well as on Instagram at wakeupcall_DT, where we get to post a lot of stuff in the story and connect with you there. We're proud to be with you on YouTube, proud to be with you on MixLR, proud to be with you on wakeupcalldt.com, our hub for all of my stuff because it's my main site. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God is great. God is good. You are amazing. I hope you have a great day. Find us on Facebook at wakeupcalldt, the Twitter at calldt, Instagram at wakeupcall_DT, and of course, on wakeupcalldt.com and on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Big shout out to Prince for our inaugural segment of Check Down. Big shout out to Mike Sofka for the Hall of Fame fantasyfootball.com and the Fantasy Football Power Hour. A thanks to the Wildcat Sports Pub. A thanks to you once again. And Mike will be joining us for an extra dose of fantasy football at the same bat time channel, 10 a.m. to 11. So yeah, same bat time, same bat channel, I guess is what I would say. 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. You'll get a double dose of the Fantasy Football Power Hour this week. So you'll hear from Mike tomorrow as we tackle the running backs of the rest of the AFC teams in the AFC West and the AFC South. We'll have some fun with that with Mr. Sofka tomorrow as fantasy football continues. And Bo Edmondson will be joining me, one of the quarterbacks that you're going to need to know for 2023 as he makes his decision with many fantastic teams reaching out for him and wanting him to be their quarterback of the future. So all of that coming up on tomorrow's show. Papa Joe has the week off. We'll talk with him next week, and I can't wait to do that. I love and appreciate everything I get to do. Love my God, appreciate my God, and my family, my friends, all of the wonderful businesses I work with. I appreciate you, and I send you my love. Have a great day. Be safe, be well. This has been Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. And God bless you. No stress. And please, always, do your best. I'll talk to you soon. Be good.